Hello and welcome to the dungeon. I'm your host Rob. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Soulknife rogue from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. So kind of doing rogues for a bit here, and I figured we'd start with one of the better ones. Hard to beat the Arcane Trickster, I think, for rogues. I think they're still probably the best, but I really like the Soulknife. They're pretty versatile. You can be a melee character, you can be a ranged character. The Soulknives themselves are pretty cool and thematic. If you were ever a big fan of the X-Men like I was, and you probably remember like Psylocke from the 90s there, when she was just this like sexy ninja with psychic knives and telepathy, and that was just kind of cool stuff. And this really kind of has a lot of that feel and flavor to it. Soulknife overall I think is pretty good. So let's just go through quickly and take a look at their abilities. At level 3, you get quite a bit. It's a very front-loaded subclass. There are some issues, though, that we will talk about towards the end as well, of course. But for now, let's just go through the main abilities. So at level 3, we're going to get Psionic Power. You harbor a wellspring of Psionic Energy within yourself. The energy is represented by your energy die, which are each a d6. You have a number of these dice equal to twice your proficiency bonus, and they fuel various psionic powers you have, which are detailed below. So you're already going to start with at least 4 die, and it's only going to get better from there, which is nice. Some of your powers expend psionic energy die they use as specified in Power's description, and you can't use a power if it requires you to use a die when your die are all expended. You regain all your expended energy when you finish a long rest. In addition, as a bonus action, you can regain 1 expended psionic energy die, but you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest. So already you're starting with 4, and you could recover 1 to make it 5 already, which is pretty good. When you reach certain levels in this class, the size of your psionic energy die increases. At 5th level, it goes to a D8, at 11, it goes to a D10, and at 17th, a die 12. I think one thing to notice here, though, a lot of times our damage abilities kind of scale with our level, and they tend to scale fairly slowly. I mean, these ones scale fairly slowly too. But these are also scaling in the number of times you can use them with your proficiency bonus. So it is pretty nice. We have like a double scaling. We've got a level scaling where the damage goes up, and we have a use scaling with our proficiency bonus, which, even if we like multi-class out of rogue, we're still going to get more uses, even if the damage die never increases. And the damage die, to me, is less important, but it is nice that it increases as well. Anyway, so we've got our 2 main abilities here. We've got Psi Bolstered Knack. When your non-psionic training fails you, your psionic power can help. If you fail an ability check using a skill or tool with which you have proficiency, you can roll 1 of your energy die, add a number rolled to the check, potentially turning failure into success. You expend the die only if the roll succeeds. So I like this a lot. Basically, if you are proficient in something, you fail the roll, you use 1 of your psionic energy die, even if you're only going to succeed if you roll a 5 or a 6. Well, if you didn't roll a 5 or 6, you don't expend that die. It's only used if you've turned that failure into a success. And honestly, that's just a great ability. Especially because your ability checks are, kind of a big thing when you're a rogue. I do think that once you get to 11th level and you start getting things like, Remarkable Talent or Reliable Talent, whatever it's called, then it doesn't have as much of an impact anymore, because at that point you're probably succeeding on all your proficiency tests anyways. But until then, that's pretty good. And that is a wide range of play. Also, it's not like you always succeed, even at level 11 plus, right? If you have the expertise on it, though, you're probably going to succeed. But either way, still a pretty good ability. Failing ability check sucks, especially when you're supposed to be good at it and it's kind of like your thing in the party. You always want to succeed on those. Anyways, you also get Psychic Whispers. You can establish telepathic communication between yourself and others. Perfect for quiet infiltration. As an action, choose 1 or more creatures you can see up to a number equal to your proficiency bonus, and then roll 1 psionic energy die. For a number of hours equal to the number rolled. The chosen creatures can speak telepathically with you, and you can speak telepathically with them. To send or receive a message, no action required. You and the other creature must be within 1 mile of each other, so nice range as well. A creature can't use this telepathy if it can't speak any languages, and a creature can end the telepathic connection at any time with no action required. You and the creature don't need to speak a common language to understand each other. I mean, this ability just keeps getting better and better. The first time you use this power after each long rest, you don't expend the energy die. All other times you use the power, you expend the die. So you even get one free use with it too. And this is just one of the best like scouting and infiltration tools you could ever hope for. I mean, even if you roll a 1 on the die, that's an hour of telepathic communication between you and at least one other party member, probably more, right? Eventually, like just the entire party, just telepathic communication for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, whatever it is, right? It is a great ability. We also get at level 3 our Psychic Blades, and this is kind of the feature that this subclass is mostly well known for. Fair enough. You can manifest your psionic power as shimmering blades of psychic energy. Whenever you take the attack action, you can manifest the blade from your free hand and make the attack with that blade. This magic blade is a simple melee weapon with the finesse and thrown properties. It has a normal range of 60 feet and no long range. And on a hit, it deals psychic damage equal to 1d6 plus the ability modifier you used for the attack roll. So technically you could use strength. I mean, probably not, but you could. Probably going to be dexterity though. The blade vanishes immediately after it hits or misses its target, and it leaves no mark on its target if it deals damage. After you attack the blade, you can make a melee or ranged weapon attack with a second psychic blade as a bonus action on the same turn, provided your other hand is free to create it. The damage die of this bonus attack is D4 instead of D6. Still pretty nice though. It means you're pretty much guaranteed every round to be able to at least get an offhand attack as well, giving you 2 chances to hopefully hit and get in that sneak attack. The fact that you can use it as a ranged weapon or as a melee weapon is one thing I really like about this a lot as well, right? Level 9, Soul Blades. So your Psychic Blades are now an expression of your psi-suffused soul, giving you these powers that use your Psionic Energy die. Number 1, Homing Strikes. If you make an attack roll with your Psychic Blades and miss the target, you can roll 1 Psionic Energy die and add the number rolled to the attack roll. If this causes the attack roll to hit, you expend the Psionic Energy die. So once again, if you use this and you don't turn that miss into a hit, you don't expend the die. You just get to keep it. And this, is probably going to turn a lot of misses into hits. So nothing wrong with that at all. The second one is Psychic Teleportation. And honestly, I think this ability is even better. As a bonus action, you manifest one of your Psychic Blades, expend 1 Psionic Energy die and roll it, and throw the blade at an unoccupied space you can see up to a number of feet away equal to 10 times the number rolled. You then teleport to that space and the blade vanishes. Basically it's a bonus action teleport. It's like a Misty Step type ability, except potentially like 50, 60, 70, 100 feet away, depending on how big your die is at that time. I mean, I guess maximum of 120 if you're at 17th or higher level. And, it's a bonus action. It does mean you're not going to be able to make that offhand weapon attack. But, if you want mobility, this gives it to you in spades. Like I said, it's like Misty Step, but way better. Although you are getting it at 9th level. Let's just, be clear about that. And then at 13th level, we get Psychic Veil. You can weave a veil of psychic static to mask yourself. As an action, you can magically become invisible, along with anything you are wearing or carrying, for 1 hour or until you dismiss this effect. No action required. This invisibility ends immediately after you deal damage to a creature or you force a creature to make a saving throw. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a Psionic Energy die to use this feature again. So you could just use it just over and over again if you're willing to use a lot of your die. Again, pretty good. Again, an ability that gives us one free use too before it starts costing anything, which is pretty interesting. And let's face it, you probably have pretty good stealth rolls. You're probably pretty sneaky. Now you can just turn invisible, even better. It's not greater invisibility, unfortunately, but still pretty good. And at level 17, we get Random Mind. You can sweep your Psychic Blades directly through a creature's mind. When you use your Psychic Blades to deal sneak attack damage to a creature, you can force that creature to make a Wisdom saving throw, DC equal to 8, plus your proficiency bonus, plus your dexterity modifier. So, probably pretty good. If the save fails, the target is stunned for 1 minute. The stunned target can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns, ending the effect on itself on a success. Once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend 3 Psionic Energy die to use it again. But again, that's pretty good, especially on minute stun. Like, that's quite a bit better than Stunning Strikes, for example, you know? Although, to be fair, monks got that a long time before 17, right? So yeah, that's the basic abilities of the Soulknife. So let's talk about some of the things I think it really excels at, and then we'll talk about some of the weaknesses. Having seen the class played a bit, I haven't personally played one, and in my normal group, nobody's played one either. But I was in like a Roll20 campaign online, which only lasted, I think, 3 sessions. And somebody there did play one. So I did get to see at least a little bit of it. So one of the things I think is really good is this subclass allows you to really do a lot of those exploration and out of combat type of stuff that rogues are supposed to be good at, but sometimes aren't really if you built for like combat damage, right? It's not that you're bad at it, but you know, if you didn't take like expertise on like stealth and stuff like that and you used it for other areas, you might still be expected to be that sneaky infiltrator type of guy. And then it turns out you're like an 8 out of 10, not a 10 out of 10, or 7 out of 10, maybe where you're at. But, if you really want to be doing that stuff, sometimes you just really need to dedicate yourself to the role. So I like the fact that you can get things like invisibility with this subclass. You have telepathy with this subclass. A lot of those types of things this subclass really excels at. And then on top of that, you've got things like disarming traps or using different abilities, because rogues are kind of skill monkeys, right? That's one of the things they're good at. And being able to use your die to help you succeed on those type of rolls really just makes you better at like all the like rogue type non-combat stuff that rogues often are expected to do. So I really like the subclass in those regards. As far as one of the weaknesses, as written, you can't really use your psychic blades for things like opportunity attacks, right? So if you might have had a chance to sneak attack on somebody else's turn, you'd need to have a weapon equipped in order to be able to do that, because you only summon your psychic blades while you're taking the attack action. That kind of limits your options there. It also means that if you find a really nice magical weapon, you may just want to use that instead of your psychic knives, right? I don't think that's bad. I think a lot of times, or at least, I shouldn't say a lot of times, I don't want to generalize, but at least with the limited use that I saw the Soulknife, the player in question, I won't say their name because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but the player in question really was just hung up on only using his knives. And like, I'm not saying I blame him, because that is kind of the Soulknife's thing, right? You've got these psychic blades, right? But, we fought things that were like immune to psionics, not very commonly, but there was a few. I think we fought a construct that was, and there's things like mind flayers and stuff like that, right? And just having a weapon would have alleviated all these problems that he was having with the class, right? You can still use your psychic blades 99% of the time, but just have a backup short sword +1 or something else that, under those circumstances, you're like, oh, hey, we're fighting mind flayers. They're actually really strong against psychic attacks. Maybe I should be using a different weapon for this fight, or things along those lines. And maybe it was just bad luck that he was playing that character and we fought, a construct that was immune to psychic damage, who knows? I don't think the DM planned it to, just to screw him over or anything. But, he had opportunities where he could have had a backup weapon, and he just like refused to use anything besides the psychic blades. Um, there's also opportunities where you can't use it with like a booming blade or a green flame blade, right? And I personally, if I'm going to be playing a rogue, there's two really main styles I like to play. One is the sneaky infiltrator style, like this character, right? And I think that I'd be very happy playing this type of rogue. But the other one tends to be trying to find ways to like maximize my damage in combat, right? And a lot of times this involves things like getting green flame blade or booming blade, either because I'm an arcane trickster or because I dipped into another class that gives me those cantrips, or maybe you just take the magic initiate feat, although that's usually not my go-to. I do usually rather just take like a one level dip in sorcerer or wizard or something. Um, it could also be doing things though like multi-classing with say the battle master fighter, and now I can take the riposte or the brace maneuvers or both, and try to get sneak attacks on somebody else's turn besides my own, right? So I attack on my turn, I sneak attack, somebody comes up on me, I use brace, and now I get to attack them on their turn using my reaction, and I can sneak attack them, right? Um, and this character can't really do any of those things because unless you're using a weapon, you can't use your psychic blades as they require you to take the attack action in order to manifest them. And it specifically says like they disappear at the end, right? So you bring them out, you attack, they're gone. So, reaction attacks kind of out of the question with them, right? But like I said, I do think that they're a really great option at lower levels when you might not have a magic item. And the fact that you already have, weapons that you can summon at will pretty much and use those to attack against creatures that maybe require magical items means that, the fighter and the paladin and the barbarian and people who don't have those options can get the weapons they need. And then when you're like, hey, we've got extras, I'll take one of those, just in case I need it. And, like I said, if you get like some really, really great magical item, or magical weapon, not item in general, but a great magical weapon, you can always just decide, I'm just going to use this sword now, right? Like, I think a lot of times we want to be the subclass, but we forget that we're still like a rogue, right? We still have all the other rogue abilities. You're not limited to just what the subclass gave you. Those are just bonuses added on top of the core class, in every class's case, not just rogue, obviously, right? And I think that sometimes we can get hung up on those kind of details and forget the bigger picture. Like, there's no reason you couldn't be using a magic weapon. And yeah, your psychic blades are cool. And if you want to be like a melee rogue, you could still be using those psychic blades if you need ranged attacks, right? You just summon them and start throwing magic blades at people. You don't have to worry about it, right? And then you're like, oh, okay, now that we've closed the distance and I don't need to, fight at range anymore, I can dart in and attack them with my magic dagger or short sword or whatever I'm using, right? Rapier, So I do think that it's good to be aware that this could be a consideration, right? You might want to be looking at a weapon even though you have your psychic blades, but I don't think that this subclass is only limited to the blades. The blades are a really cool feature, and they're quite good, right? The fact that they're ranged or melee, the fact that, they're doing psychic damage, which is pretty rarely resisted, right? The fact that, you have a way of bypassing things like resistances or immunities at low level, for the most part, unless they're immune to psychic damage, of course, is also a big boost. But you also have things like the ability to turn misses into hits. You have things like the ability to short-range teleport. You have things like psychic communication with your parties and invisibility. This subclass gives you a lot of different things that you can really use and just make yourself more effective in those roles. And I don't necessarily think that it's the highest damage rogue you could build or anything like that, but I think it's one of the best rogues you can build, if you know what I'm saying. So overall, I really like this subclass. I think it's quite good. It does have a couple of minor limitations, but I mean, if you weren't a Soulknife, you're going to want a magic weapon anyway, right? So even that's not really a big drawback. Like, every other rogue wants a magic weapon, right? The scout wants a magic weapon. The thief wants a magic weapon. They all want a magic weapon, So you do too. You can prioritize it a little less than some of the others. which is nice. So overall, I think it's very, very solid. Anyways, those are my thoughts on the subclass. Thank you for watching. Feel free to like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and most importantly, leave me your comments in the comment section. I love reading everybody's comments. I read every single one. I don't always respond, but sometimes I just give you a little heart, or sometimes I just read it, and then like 3 days later, I'm like, man, that was a good comment. I'm gonna go comment on that after all, whatever. But yeah, I love hearing people's input. We're gonna do a couple more rogue videos. We'll probably cover a couple of the really garbage subclasses as well. The problem is that most of the subclasses that I really like, I've kind of done already, at some point in the past, which really leaves us with a lot of stuff from like the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide and some of the weaker ones from the other publications that maybe slip through the cracks because you're too busy looking at the good ones. And so, that's kind of what we have to cover these days. There are still some good ones out there, though. I think I haven't done Phantasm, so we'll probably do that one as the next video, and then we'll probably do the Inquisitive or something. Yeah. Oh well. They can't all be great. Anyways, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.